In today's video, I recap my adventure at Lord of the Imps. We've got some gameplay for you. It is just going to be a video of me filming my games, going through them all. For this one, I did voiceover. I have got a set of microphones so I can mic us up next time and get more of the action. We do cut into the game as well on those big moments, but I would like to cut into it more. So that's something I'm going to do going forward in the next tournaments, which fingers crossed is going to be November and February. So if you want to see that, make sure you're subscribed. But let's find out about the armies and get into this one. Before we get into the match, then I should probably touch on the rules for the tournament. So it was 550 points. It was a Legion day one, and your leader had to die, and then the lieutenant took over. So in this case, I've gone for Erebor Reclaimed with Thorin Oakenshield leading, Dane as the lieutenant, Thorin leading 12 Iron Hills with spears. And then we've got Dane with 7 more spears and 3 crossbows. Now these crossbows were a late addition, so massive thank you for allowing me to include them to the TO and stuff. I found a good deal on eBay. I bought 6 of them. I managed to get 3 painted up in time. It literally was a few days before, so very happy to have some kind of range in this list because I've played it before without a ballista crossbows and stuff like that, and it just misses something. So very happy to get those. Day 2, obviously very thematically, Thorin dies and Dane takes over. It's pure Iron Hills on the second day, so we've got Dane Ironfoot leading with an Iron Hills captain. We don't really lose a turn and we gain quite a bit, so instead of Thorin we got the captain. He is on a goat. We get a few extra spears, we get a banner. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, why is there no banner on day 1? As I say, or as the title might say, I'm still very new to this, very new to tournaments and list building. Normally play Iron Hills, so when I saw Erebor Reclaimed, I saw that Thorin was a banner. Now that is only a banner to stuff with Erebor. I assume because they were in an Erebor list, the stuff in the list would have Erebor, but obviously that was incorrect. I was able to ban them for Thorin, but yeah, was definitely missing something day 1. I actually realised a day of, but I didn't want to change my list so late. I don't know if that's really allowed or even possible. So I went with what we've got. It came up a few times in day 1, that's for sure. Had a lot of rough luck in my first couple of games and then a few towards the end without a banner. So let's move into the list then and look at some of the games. Round 1 then was Seize the Imp, which is a variation on Seize the Prize. The Imp has a few extra rules. You have to roll to see if you hold it at the start of your turn, if you've got hold of it, or if it runs away. I was against Lurt's Scouts and absolutely awesome painted army. Very interesting synth waved them. Even the bases are themed. You had a themed board, t-shirt. It really went the extra mile. It seemed like everyone knew this guy, so potentially you know who he is anyway. A very unique army. So as the game got underway, I did explain I was fairly new, and he was honestly amazing. So a massive thank you to Sean, who was not only brilliant in making sure everything was above board and aiding me at certain points with strategy and tips, but had a great chat afterwards, again, on tactics going ahead and what I was should be doing with my army and maybe some points I could improve on. Just a top guy in general. Not only that, but he bought me a drink afterwards. And people say you can't buy happiness, but you can sure buy me. Now, as the game began, just sort of setting up here, the turn we kick things off. I'm umming and ahhing about whether it's called heroic, and we do speak about this after the match. And he said I 100% should have. His suggestion, which I was thinking but was scared to do, and I think that is part of the problem. These aren't like goblins. These aren't easy to kill. They're not easy to wound. I should have marched them up, sat them in front of the point so there's no way he could get to it, and just have them fight. Even if he manages to dismount me, it means I can pick up the imp. It means I can fight and just maybe escape with it, maybe form a line around it. It means my troops are getting in quicker, because I did have a problem just getting into this one. Unfortunately, we do eventually march. The second turn, I'm just so far behind. I'm like, I need to get over there. He's moving 8 with these, so very quick, very mobile. So I do it 1 turn too late, and the difference this makes is absolutely insane. So if I went first turn, I could have held the point with Thorin and Dane. He couldn't have got to it. I could have got to it before them. We could have fought stuff off. My troops would have been further up, so I could have maybe marched them again. It's just, yeah, it's those small things that make massive differences. And unfortunately for me this turn, I think it's Ugluk manages to grab the imp and make his escape. Now, I thought he was going to hold his line and just keep Ugluk behind it. But obviously he scores a lot more points if he can get into my end, which I realised far too late. Unfortunately, the only way I could deal with that is via crossbows and potentially getting some wounds and maybe killing some people. But they weren't very effective, and he manages to escape quite quickly. Slowly he wins fight after fight and manages to get away. I do manage to take some casualties, so I think I score some points at least. I can't actually remember. I can actually check here as I'm voiceover in this, so let's check in real time. Okay, I tell a lie. No, no, I cannot do that. Can I? I absolutely can do that. I managed to score a point. What was that for? I don't think I broke him. I think I was one model off. Anyway, I scored a point. It was 8-1 in the end. I did try and go after him with Dane, so I was planning to call a combat and slingshot Dane across the map. Obviously, that was the only way I could chase him down, which makes a lot of sense. However, here's Dane versus a single Uruk.
Yeah, Dane versus my guy. Go on, scout. It's the 6. Yeah, well, you could kill Dane if you fail on your feet, like, couldn't you?
He then manages to lose 1v1 fights for the rest of the game. I think he kills maybe a couple of things. Even a banner beat him at one point.
This one. Have it.
Dane's not been great so far.
So you currently are winning off the banner, but if I can banner into a 4, I'll win that fight. Go on, banner. So
Dane sucks.
To say I rolled terribly with Dane this tournament would be an understatement. Not only, I think in 3 separate games he was tied down every turn and just losing to a single troop. Even sometimes he'd get a charge off and I'd call a combat, I would still lose. Obviously it's a game of dice and this happens. If I had a banner, the problem is the banner wouldn't necessarily even be near or in range of Dane. Obviously he wants to move around and try and get into stuff with his boar. Closing thoughts after game 1. Dice suck. His army was absolutely gorgeous with a really unique theme. I absolutely love playing against them. Some people might not like it. Obviously it is very different. It's not a classic Lord of the Rings style. But I had an incredible time playing him, and like I said, his insight was invaluable for the rest of the tournament. There was stuff he mentioned that I would do in further games, like the special strikes is always something that's been a little weird for me, so I'm glad to see that going. But yeah, he explained some of using a sword and feinting with the front line, as I've got the spear and fight in the back. So very happy I had him as my first round opponent.
I'll mate it to the 4.
Yeah, you might as well, yeah.
And in that case.
Okay, well played, man. Well played.
Oh,
I appreciate that, thank you.
Round 2 was Domination, and I was up against some form of Minas Tirith guys. There were some rangers in there. I thought I'd have a pretty good time with this one, so I marched turn 1, and again I sat in front of the objective, something I should have done the last round, and I was feeling pretty happy at this point, and I'm glad already learnt from that first game and set up a plan ahead of time, dropped my dwarves right in front of the objectives and sat there. Now my plan was to sit with my shield wall on the objective and wait, let him come to me as his bows just wouldn't do enough. Dane was sneaking around the side and I could reposition with crossbows if needed. So you'll be shocked to see the following turn, as well as I am, where I feel just sitting there is quite cheesy and I just charge forward. Not into combat, just leaving the objective and not really achieving much of anything. Now I think this is something I'm going to have to learn going forward in wargaming. Some strategies are just going to be me sort of barricading around something, trying to hold down a point, when the point of the game is very much to do that. I learned the lesson the hard way here, walk into his trap and entirely abandon my plan within a single turn. I don't know why I did it, but as I say, it's something I'm going to work on going forward. Dane continued to barrel around the edge though, as Thorin and dwarves pushed his lines. Now I realise this sounds like another excuse, and trust me when I say it is, but my dice again just absolutely abandoned me in this one. My opponent was having a laugh about it, having a good time. He was having some rough luck as well, to be honest. Every time he re-rolled with a banner, he would roll a 1. Even sometimes he'd do it just to see, and it was always a 1. So yeah, there's something going on with the dice juju over at Lord of Imps. Dane in this one, once again, very ineffective. Thorin didn't do much. He was eventually trapped and killed, which might have been my fault, although I'm hoping we see the roll, because again, I cannot and will not be held accountable for dice. I hear you typing below. That's why you take a banner. And yes, that was my mistake and is entirely my fault. Not really much else. That one is entirely on me. Both our bows weren't really up to much, so the lines clashed, his archers left his nest, and the dwarves had to hold out against the hordes. Unfortunately, a mix of bad dice and no banner meant he had the better in the majority of the fights. My crossbows picking off his spear supports and the odd casualty here and there. But it all came to a head when Thorin was trapped. 2 turns running, he just couldn't get away from the mob, and once he was dismounted, struggled to maneuver around. Once he fell, I think that was pretty much it. Dane was paired off again with single Ministerial troops, and despite calling combats, he managed to keep up his streak and win absolutely no duels against troops. Again, a lovely opponent and a fantastic game. He had a really nicely painted Ministerial army, and I'm hoping to see him again. I think he said he was at the Rings of Men tournament in November, which I will be doing another video on. So if you want to see more Middle-earth stuff, you want to see more tournament reports, games in general, stuff like that, make sure you subscribe, because I'm very much moving in the direction of Middle-earth. I'll still be doing other miniature stuff and things on the channel, but that's very much going to be the focus.
I didn't move around me. You're not. Are you broken or?
No, I was one off. That was one.
It's not going to make.
It would have been one
difference,
VP.
yeah. So good game. Well played.
Good game.
Excellent.
Well, good luck, I think. Well rolled. Well rolled.
A little healthy liquid lunch, and then we are into round 3. Round 3 then, and we are against James in Storm the Camp. A very, very difficult one for the dwarves. Obviously having to cross the whole board, it's just so slow. If they've got any kind of range, I'm just getting picked apart. And I was against the Serpent Horde, teamed up with the Corsairs of Umbar. So very much the Arbalaster's not having the most range, but absolutely deadly and so hard to deal with in return. He formed his lines, he held it, he sent his cavalry around the left and the right. I was very much caught off guard here, so as I march up, there's not really much happening. I get a few shots off with my crossbows, he gets a few. There's not really many of any casualties. I think he maybe picks up a few dwarves. Maybe I get 1 or 2 of his, but not really anything. Dane is going into a group of his rangers and Delgamar along the side. Thorin, however, tries to stop Suladan and the cavalry from getting around his end. Suladan does retreat and take the Numenor. Suladan then hits a retreat. The cavalry steams forward, trying to get into my camp before I can stop them. Again, I'm glad I can have these to sort of rewatch, but even in the moment, like as soon as it happened, I knew I'd made a mistake, or afterwards at least when I'm thinking about it. Which is why I would say anyone thinking about going to tournaments, just take the leap, go do it. You will improve massively. So my mistake here is I used Thorin to try and follow his cavalry. It's kind of a mistake of experience and just knowing how to play this. Obviously, Thorin should keep forward, clash into those line of Arbalasters with the troops and just take them out that way. However, he spends a few turns wasted just trying to stop this cavalry. Now, this was kind of a mistake on my part because I thought there was only one. So I thought it was a hero. Found out very soon it wasn't, and yeah, wasted a lot of time. Eventually, he manages to get a few troops to run past Dane. Obviously, with it's probably like 10 over there. Dane can only do so much. In this one, he is managing to win some fights, managing to kill some things. So definitely much improved performance from Dane in this round. He does have a few massive rounds, but he has a few more stinkers. But we'll get into them. We'll talk about his demotion later on. Again, absolutely lovely opponent. Really enjoyed this game. Absolutely gorgeous painted army. It's an army I do want to try out because I have got a Mummock, so it's one I want to get onto the board. I've ordered the Betrayer recently, so I'm definitely going to pick up some pieces to try and pull that army together. Maybe that's what I take for the Grand Prix in February. I'm very much looking forward to that as well. Now, round 4, at this point, I'm absolutely exhausted. I am just got some news from home as well. My little one was unwell. I had a phone call from her, so I was a bit down at this point. Just looking forward to playing my last game. I've just taken some pictures instead of a recording. Absolutely gorgeously painted Legendary Legion Defenders of the Shire. It's an army, if you've seen anything on this channel, that I've been building up myself. So it was really cool to play, but obviously with Strength 2 and just terrible defense, it's really difficult for the Shire to do anything or take anything. And Dane proves as... no, sorry, it wasn't even Dane, it was Thorin. Thorin smashes into the line. He manages to kill Merry, which is the leader on the other side, very quickly. This was the other Imp variation, so basically you get points for wound and stuff, killing their leader. So once I'd killed Merry almost instantly, and I was able to just farm the hobbits, it was just, yeah, it was over from there. It was a fantastic game. Again, it was a fantastic day in general. Yeah, I was hoping to be a bit more fresh. We do have one recording from day 2, and I've got a lot to talk about in the matches, so let's head into them. I did head home and then head back, and I would say to anyone, if you're going to a 2-day tournament, just stay over. Pay the extra, it's really worth it. I was absolutely knackered. My legs, my back was absolutely in bits. So yeah, we come to day 2, slightly refreshed. I wouldn't say fully refreshed. I will say a massive thank you to Joe and Aaron, who were from the same area as me. I wasn't able to get in day 2 because I had some issues with my train. So I was going to have to skip it, which I would have been absolutely gutted about. Day 2, I had a much stronger army. I was really enjoying day 1. I just enjoying playing games, meeting new people, making new friends, and thankfully I made that in Joe and Aaron. Just absolute lifesavers. Both of them very good players, so just being able to chat with them on games and picking their brains and hearing their strategies was a massive help as well. After the somber note of day 1 ending, day 2 kicked off, and I was against Jamie in the Contest of Champions. He was playing Angmar with Burda. We were in this, as you can see, like very small, very cramped area of like a broken down church or something. In Contest of Champions, you just deploy around your champions. You're just slamming into lines with very little space. There was going to be a ton of trapped attacks and a lot of wounds, and yeah, a lot of silliness going on. I deploy my crossbows above. He deploys stuff to try and deal with them very quickly. And I think he manages to... It might get 1 kill, I'm not sure. Just trying to remember. I think he deals with them before they really do much of anything. However, turn 1, I set my lines. I make it so there is room for Dane to charge Burda. We call heroics. We both call. I managed to clear the line as Burda goes into some stuff because he can't quite get through to Dane. So the plan was I was going to set my lines, and then as he came into them, I was going to clear the lines so I could then slam in with Dane. And it worked perfectly, honestly. I was able to get in with Dane straight away, then throw some spears in there as well. And as you will see, you won't see the actual rolls, but Dane and the spear all managed to land true. He fails his fate.
So 4, and then the spears on them.
Oh, you did, yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. I didn't see that.
So he's D6.
D6.
You don't get the knockdown, obviously.
Yeah. Then 5.
Oh! Oh no!
How many?
That's fate.
How many fate
What? We've
wounds?
only got 1 fate. 3 wounds, 1 fate. Oh no!
Can I might before your
Left of my
fate?
head now, yes.
So I will might.
Oh, so that's you, Lord? Yeah. You've got the most kills? I can't. Oh well, never mind. Let's see how the rest
Yeah.
Oh well.
Okay.
Quick game.
Dane is good today.
Dane's good today, yes, that's how you
He's woke up on the right side of bed.
And we clear out Burda turn 1. Now this is absolutely crushing for a few reasons. He'd been throwing paralyze and other nasty things at Dane. If any of those hit, it would have been a completely different story. I have to spend all of my will, a few bits of might. So he does take a lot of things from me. So it's such a narrow margin. Like if any of those rolls go wrong, maybe I just get absolutely wiped out. Because the following turn, once Burda is gone, the game's pretty much wrapped up. I've already got a kill, so I've got at least double him from that. He can't score any kills with his leader, and in Contest of Champions, that's a big issue. As I say though, following turn, Dane is paralyzed, transfixed, he's on the floor, he's lost his mount. I spend a few turns trying to get him up, and I just can't. He literally spends the rest of the game just stuck there until he can get some stuff into Dane and finish him off. We were both laughing the whole way through. It was such a fun game, and I think that's, like we were talking about, that's the important thing, having a good time. We were talking about the silly rules like swimming and jumping, and they came into effect. He was just slinging his orcs off the top of the areas I'd placed my crossbows, and the majority of the time it worked in his favor. Although towards the end, a Barrow White tried to leap off and slammed into the floor.
He's gonna jump down.
Love that jump there.
Oh yeah.
Ah, it's happened.
Technically hit. Yeah, just people jumping off walls and stuff. So.
But he doesn't take a wound, but he is not prone. He's prone.
And it's just those silly moments. Like I had a dwarf sat around the corner, and you can imagine the face as a Barrow White just collapses to the floor from the ceiling around you. It's why I love this game. Those silly moments, those fun moments you can create with these very unique rules. And I'm hoping we do see that going forward into the new format. As the game came to a close, it was very, very close. If a few courage rolls went against me, we could have saw my opponent grab some more points. My dwarves very courageous, so thankfully stuck around. We were able to get a few more kills. And I think by the end we had both broken. I was maybe even close to being quartered. It was everything went in his favor other than that first turn. And that first turn, again, is the one that mattered. He won a good start in this game. And unfortunately for him, it went my way. But I was feeling really good going into day 2. I wanted to make an impact, and that is a good way to start things.
Good game. Well played. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. I've had its moments. Yeah, there's a few laughs.
I'll just briefly recap these last 2 games as I've just got some images. Some of the placements of the matches would have meant it hard to put a tripod around. It's just how it happens. I don't think I have to film every game, as long as I can talk about it and recap it in some way. And as this goes, hopefully I do it more and more. This is the first time I've actually filmed games at a tournament, so it's kind of nerve-wracking. So I'm just glad I filmed any, honestly. The last 2 games, the round 6 was a tough one. It was still a fun game. I still had a good time. My opponent was a lovely guy as well. It was just a little, I don't know how to describe it. It was just a little unpleasant experience because of the nature of the game. Nothing against him. Lovely guy. Amazingly painted army. Absolutely gorgeous. Just look at some of these pictures. He was playing the Vanquishers in Fog of War, and he had rolled to set up inside. It was like a little Rohan castle, and I was basically sieging it with dwarves. Obviously very slow. He was able just to use his sleigh to get in and out, cast stuff, panic steed every turn, and then dip back in before I could get to him. It was an absolute nightmare. By the time I got to him, he had already casted God knows how many spells, at least 1 spell every turn, just slamming into my stuff, panicking steeds, Wrath of Bruin, Nature's Wrath, all of that stuff. It was just an absolute nightmare. And because I couldn't attack or do anything back, but again, nothing against him, lovely opponent, and it's just one of those things. It's how the Magic users work. It's how this game type works. So he was just playing very safe, very conservative. And he managed to, once I got into the castle and got into his lines, it was close to the end of the game and he just managed to escape. So I lost that one 9-4. So it wasn't even that bad of a loss, honestly. I was very proud to get any points out of this one and managed to get my terrain type and a wound on his leader, or a wound on my target, I should say. And then we came into the final round of this tournament, and the final recap I've got for this one. It was game 7 and we were playing Breakthrough. I was against Richard, and he was playing Arathorn's Stand, which I think is a legendary legion. He just had Halabrad and a ton of rangers. With all that might and all that banner, he was just able to reroll so much. He got a lot of fights. Again, this is probably the worst performance Dane had. My opponent was apologizing and laughing and just couldn't believe what was happening. And it happens. He felt a little bad afterwards, thinking I would have had a bad experience, but it was an excellent game. He was a lovely opponent. Again, gave me pointers. And it was just a lovely experience. Like, even though I think Dane rolled like 3 1s or 2s, like 3 turns in a row, and one of his characters managed to hold Dane the whole game in one spot. And that happens. It was a good game. He managed to win it quite convincingly, finishing 8-2. So again, at least I got some points, but not enough to win. And I don't think it was really close, honestly. He absolutely wiped me out. So excellent game, excellent opponent. And I think before I wrap up, as a wrap up, that is what I want you guys to take away from this. It is such a great experience. Whether you lose, whether you win, every opponent you have is going to be lovely. This game cultivates that as a community, just how it works, how fun it is. And like I said, those silly moments, those extra rules that just incentivize that. It was so much fun. I'm looking to improve more and more as I go. I do want to get good at this game. I want to be on those top tables, but it's going to take some time. I think I'm going to start to have to look at it more competitively if I want to do that, because currently I'm just putting together what I like. Like I said, it was more thematic that Thorin died and Dane took over. Iron Hills are very good though, don't get me wrong. It's just the list building can definitely use some work. I'm looking forward to get more and more into this game. I will say, as a tournament report, I didn't film anywhere near enough of like the just the community, like at the end, the awards, the in-between stuff, maybe on lunch, or I don't even think I got a picture of my spud on day 2, which is, I wouldn't say I'm there for the jacket potato with curry on, but I am 100% there for that, and Middle Earth is a second. It was oh god, I've heard stuff about it and it lived up to its name. But it's been an incredible weekend. I'm still recovering at this point, feeling a little run down. My back is slowly getting there, but I can't wait to do it all again in November. Hopefully in December as well, there's some tournaments there. Run at Melton and stuff like that, which I'd like to get to. Otherwise, it's going to be February or maybe January if I can find something. I'm aiming to do like one a month, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously with a little one and other stuff going on, it can be difficult. But yeah, one hell of a tournament. If you've enjoyed this, if you want to see more, if you've got any suggestions, let me know in the comments. Or if you're one of my opponents, I would love to hear from you or anyone at the tournament. As I say, the community is one of the best things about this game, and I very much mean that. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.